Welcome back, everybody. Great to have you with us on the program This Week in America. Our website, thisweekinamerica.us. What does a magician do when he can have as many lives as he wishes, but is tired of living the life of a magician? Well, he makes himself a knight. That's the premise for the new book called The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight by Peter Krivinskas. Actually, it's Peter's first book. Peter is a former lawyer, lives in Manchester, England with his wife. He has 3 sons, ages 17 to 29. And he's written several books, this being the first, The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. We'll give you information throughout the program on Peter's website. Peter Krivinskas with us on This Week in America. Hi, Peter. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. How are you?
I am doing fine and really enjoyed having an opportunity to read The Magician's Quest. It's a book with, it's thrilling, it's exciting, it's adventurous, and the backstory on this, how it all came about, is really fascinating. This literally is what a book that almost wrote itself. It woke you up in the middle of the night and said, here's the story, Peter, get up and write me.
More or less. Literally 3 o'clock in the morning, woke up with this absolutely vivid picture of how the book was, the first 7 or 8 chapters. If you don't do something about that straight away, you forget it by the time you wake up in the morning. So my laptop was next to me. I took it out and wrote down all the notes of everything I could remember. And then once I'd done that, I was able to close the laptop, go back to sleep again, read it in the morning. And I thought, this is great, but what do I do now? And then I realized that I had the first 7 or 8 chapters of a book, and so I thought, well, I've got to finish it. So when I went to sleep that night, I had no intention of writing a book. It was the furthest thing from my mind. Having woke up the next morning, I realized it was something I had to do. So I sat down and literally, you're right, the book virtually wrote itself. There were changes to names and characters and whatever, but it probably only took me 8-9 weeks to write 60 to 70,000 words, which, basically it was enjoyable to write. I would never have believed just how enjoyable it was to actually write a book. I love reading, but it actually I didn't read anything else while I was writing. It took over my life.
What's interesting is where did this idea come from? Had this been something you were thinking about? I mean, I'm trying to figure out why all of a sudden in the middle of the night you have this story. And maybe it's something you're still trying to figure out as well.
No idea. Divine inspiration is all I can put it
Wow.
down. It literally just came, but it was so vivid. And it was such an attractive story to me with the characters and what had happened. And I thought I just couldn't leave it to die as a dream that would disappear. So I was compelled to write everything I could remember.
The book is called The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. With us on This Week in America, our guest is Peter Krivinskas, and his website is peterkrivinskas.com. Yes, I will help you with that, Peter. Then it's KRI. V as in Victor, INSKAS.com. Very simple. Going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, you can link on directly to Peter's website. The book is available at the usual outlets as well, and it's called The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. What was the reaction of family members when all of a sudden husband and dad is writing a book out of nowhere? Because as you mentioned, this is not something you've said to, for the last 5 years. Someday I'm going to sit down and write a book. You woke up in the middle of the night and you started writing a book. What was their reaction when you were explaining this to them?
Well, initially I didn't say anything because it was so, I thought, they would laugh at me if I said I was writing a book. So I didn't know I would finish the book when I started it. So I thought, well, let me do the book first before I tell anybody. And all they saw me was writing away on the computer, which I do from time to time on different things anyway. So it was done totally in private, secretly. And it was only when I finished it that I actually then sort of spilled the beans, as it were, and there was just smiles and amusement at the thought that I'd written the book. There's only my middle son has read it, and he enjoyed it.
The book we're talking about is The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. Peter Krivinskas, our guest on This Week in America. Let's talk about the book, and it's always difficult. You don't want to give away too much, but there's so many inspiring things in the book. As I mentioned, the book there are thrills, it's exciting, adventure, and it's described somewhat as a good versus evil book, isn't it?
It is. Firstly, sort of the whole thing of fantasy books, because this goes under that genre title, is a peculiar one because everybody has their problems, everybody has their worries and whatever, and they spend their whole lives worrying about them. And reading something like this is an opportunity for people to literally just put that to one side and just submerge themselves into another world, another life. And for that hour or 2 hours, however long they read, they can relax from their worries. They can live other people's worries and dreams and heartaches and whatever, and then come back to the real world when they've done. And I think it's a nice bit of escapism. It's a nice opportunity to actually forget about your day-to-day worries just for an hour or 2 hours while you're reading and get involved in something. The book itself is a bit of a good v evil thing, in so much as here you have this master magician who's incredibly powerful. He's gone as far as he can go. And he's a bit of a Doctor Who character in many respects. Magic was given to him when he was born. And he believes that every time he lives a life and then decides to find a secret place where he rides away. That secret place is a place where he stays for about a year, and when he wakes up, he is a new young man with all the knowledge, all the capabilities that he had when he retired there as an old man. So he has a new life ahead of him. And he's done that so many times as a magician. And he wants something different. He wants something that he can actually enthuse about, so he becomes a knight. And he has a problem when he starts off with, because he's never practiced weapons, he's never learned to fight with a sword or a dagger or anything like that. So he's a bit concerned that if he suddenly starts getting into fights, he'll be hopelessly outmatched. So he has to use his magic to enhance his weapons. And wherever he goes to be effectively reborn, rejuvenated or whatever, he believes magic has taken him there to basically combat some evil. So in the same way as Doctor Who would get in his TARDIS and whiz off to some strange planet where he always finds some adventure and some baddies to have a go at, similarly with this magician, he believes that the magic leads him and directs him where to go.
The book is called The Magic's Quest, The Magician's Quest, The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. Peter Krivinskas, our guest on This Week in America. His website is peterkrivinskas.com. You can log on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Talk about the new life that he enters. You mentioned how this was different. When he romances a queen and her maid, he's leading armies. He's doing all these things he never would have thought possible. This really is a dramatic change for him, isn't it, being a knight?
Well, it's chalk and cheese from sort of wandering corridors and dusty caves with magicians' gowns on and sort of having a sort of long white beard type of thing, to suddenly being a knight in shining armor with and a good-looking knight to boot. He's going to win him lots of friends. And of course, he has these abilities. He has his magic that he can use. And he hates to see when he gets involved in these fights, if he thinks that there's a possibility of his friends becoming injured, he sort of allows his magic to take over a little bit to make sure that they remain safe. I suppose he's a fair weather knight, in so much as he doesn't mind doing the fighting and everything if the chances of his friends and the soldiers getting injured are not too severe. But if he can do something by using his magic to save their lives, he will do it. So he's a mage, he's a magician knight. He uses both his abilities as a knight, which he develops as he goes through the book, and his vast abilities as a magician to thwart his enemies and destroy them when they threaten him.
Now, this character, as I understand, you've written now several other books using this character, but this book, The Magician's Quest, this is standalone. From start to finish, the story starts, the story ends, so we're not left hanging waiting for the next edition to come out.
I hate situations where I'll start to read a new book and suddenly I realize it's the first of 4 or 5 books and the other 4 haven't been written. And so you're having to wait for a year to see what the next book is, to see whether he rescues the damsel or the princess from the cliff's edge or whatever. And in 6 months or 9 months or a year, by the time the next book comes out, you've half forgotten what the story's about.
Exactly.
So this one literally is his whole life in that particular episode. At the end of the book, again, not giving anything away, he rides away as an old man to find his next secret place, I call it, where he can go into a mountain or somewhere, find a cave, close the cave down and literally sleep for a year and become a new man again, and a new adventure then awaits him.
The book is very visual. As I'm reading that, I can actually see this in my mind as a film, a motion picture. Any discussion into maybe turning this into a video project of some kind?
Well, lots of people have said that it would lend itself well to a film. There are obviously lots of battle scenes. There's the romance within the thing. There's a little bit of humour, but it's essentially, as I say, you've got bits of Lord of the Ring. You've got the whole theme of fighting against evil tyrants. There are 2 beautiful. One's a princess who becomes a queen, and the maid, who both sort of feature very, very heavily in the book. And there's lots to be said about actually converting the book into a film. I think it would convert well.
The book is called The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. With us, the author of the book, Peter Krivinskas. His website is peterkrivinskas.com. That's Kriv as in Victor, INSKAS.com. I'll mention that again before the program's over. And, of course, you can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to Peter's website. And the book, The Magician's Quest, is available at Amazon. You can find the book by going online and looking in that direction as well. You mentioned this book falls in the fantasy genre, the fantasy category. Have you been a long fan of fantasy novels? And if so, what are some of the ones that you read? Maybe some inspiration for this book?
Crikey. I've read many fantasy books. The usual ones that everybody, of course, knows about, like Lord of the Rings and whatever, are full of this type of thing. But there are... The whole thing of fantasy is that there are no limitations. It's whatever your mind can come up with. I mean, one of the best examples of a fantasy writer is Brandon Sanderson, who is superb writer and writes great stories. But you can only aspire to do something as good as his books. I think my book at the present time is the one that's out is full of story. I think if I had to do anything to improve it, perhaps you read other fantasy books and there's description of places in every page. What I write, somebody else would write in 10. And you would see the full room in all its glory and all its colours and carpets. And I'm more of a stories man. And because of that, the books read very quickly. And, before you've realised that you've read 50 pages and 70 pages, and the book just flows because literally there is description, there is an attempt to try and set the scene to whatever the story is, but I'm more keen, if I can use that term, on developing the story and developing what happens to all the different characters.
The book is an easy read. Like you say, once you get going, you really don't want to put it down because it really flows so nicely. The book is The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. Peter Krivinskas, our guest on This Week in America. A couple minutes left in the program. You mentioned that for a reader, this fantasy, this is a great escape. For you as someone who that actually wrote the book, was it an escape for you? Was it fun when you were able to sort of forget about what's going on in Manchester and actually escape into the world that you created?
It was fun to write at parts, but if there was a part of the book, say, that was a sad part, I felt sad. If a main character was injured or whatever, I almost felt as though I was a part of that sorrow or death or whatever it was. So it sort of dragged me along with it, and it almost sort of a part of me was bound up within the story itself. It was very difficult to try and remain objective as I was doing it. It was peculiar how I almost felt a part of everything that I was writing.
What's interesting, and I talk to authors a lot, and as they're writing, many feel like it's difficult for me to shut down at the end of the day. When it's time to sort of forget the book and go on to real life, I can't get it out of my mind. And others say, no, I just have to discipline myself that, okay, I'm going to stop writing today at 9 o'clock. I've got a family affair I have to go to. I'm going to forget about this. How difficult was it for you to actually shut down and quit thinking about it?
Oh, not a problem. I'm very fortunate in that. Even when I used to work, as soon as I literally left the office and got home, I would relatively quickly be able to switch off. It's not that the problems of work weren't still in the back of my mind. It's just that you have to compartmentalize things. And although this book was, I was probably writing it 3 or 4 different periods during the day. It'd be some in the morning, some in the afternoon, perhaps even then when I went to bed, I'd write for another 2-3 hours. So it took up a lot of parts of the day, but it was very easy once I'd finished to actually then continue with something else, even though I was very involved with the story and the plot and the characters while I was doing it. I was fortunately able to switch off when I finished, but not sufficiently so that I suddenly felt compelled when I finished the first story to write the second one and then the third one. And I thought, well, just hold on a minute. Even though on the third one I'd reached my next place where I was going to sort of go, my next secret place. This was, I thought, well, I'll stop there because, I can get carried away and write all these books and, what am I going to do with them all? So one step at a time. And I keep thinking about different plots for the fourth one if I go and write another book. But as yet, I'm working on it.
Well, I hope you do. I'm looking forward to books 2 and 3. The first book is out. It's available. It's called The Magician's Quest, The Mage Knight. Our guest on the program is Peter Krivinskas. His website is peterkrivinskas.com. That's Kriv as in Victor, INSKAS, peterkrivinskas.com. And, of course, you can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to Peter's website. And by using the book, you can Google that and find out where it's available in The Magician's Quest. Peter, it's been a pleasure to have you on the program. I really enjoyed having the opportunity to read The Magician's Quest, and I look forward to having you back on the program to talk about books 2 and 3 and hopefully book number 4 as well. Thank you for being with us.
That's great, Rick. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you. Same here. And again, information available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You're listening to This Week in America. Thank you for joining us.